Hi, my name is Jenna, and I'm going to be presenting on the San Francisco Bay. So, presentation, I'm going to be discussing some of the background on the bay, such as water sources and key factors that support its unique habitats. I will then discuss the degradation of the land and talk about the negative effects it's had on, for example, the unique communities of plants and animals. And finally, I'll move on to discuss the uncertain future of the bay. So, San Francisco is a shallow estuary located in California, covering an area of approximately 125 square kilometers. The San Francisco estuary includes embayments of the San Francisco Bay, the San Pablo Bay, the Suisun Bay, and the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. Approximately 90% of the fresh water flowing into the estuary comes from the Sacramento River, the San Joaquin River, and eastern streams from the Sierra Nevada mountains. The other 10% comes from the watershed around the San Francisco Bay. Tides from the ocean are also a major source of water for tidally influenced lands around the bay. They are an important water source for many diked habitats, particularly managed marshes during droughts. And for those who don't know, a dike is an embankment constructed of a suitable material to protect lands against overflow or to regulate water. So, the San Francisco Bay Delta is the largest estuary along the Pacific North shore of North and South America and is a natural resource of incalculable value. The sheltered waters of estuaries support unique communities of plants and animals and are among the most productive environments on the earth, creating more organic matter each year than comparably sized areas of forest, grassland, or agricultural land. The San Francisco Bay ecosystem also sustains around 500 species of fish, birds, invertebrate, mammals, insects, and amphibians. And today, extensive habitat loss and fragmentation have drastically reduced the number of species residing in the bay, as well as the population numbers existing within each species. So why has this happened? That's in part to human impact. Excuse me. Humans have exerted a major influence on the form and function of the San Francisco Bay. Not only has there been a significant decrease in size over the past 200 years, but significant changes in habitat location, quality, and quantity have also occurred. 95% of the original surface area, which was approximately 2,200 square kilometers, has been destroyed since the 1800s, and that's mostly due to human impact or human activities and population pressures. This graph on the side shows the exponential growth of population over time and some very key elements such as the California gold rush or the San Francisco earthquake and fire that have contributed to the growth of population and whatnot. So one of the first human impacts associated with the bay included the legacy of mercury-laden mining debris and bay sediments caused by gold mining in the early 1800s. Hydraulic mining techniques, such as those utilizing a water cannon, were used, which caused tens of millions of cubic meters of hydraulic mining debris to wash through the Sierra streams, in which some of that leads to the San Francisco Bay. This caused dramatic changes in hydrology, mostly in the San Pablo Bay. The bay is also listed under the Clean Water Act, Section 303D, as impaired for mercury, and it is likely that it will take many decades for the bay's total mercury concentration to decline significantly. Another large human impact has come from the increasing amounts of industrial, agricultural, and automotive wastes. From the mid-19th century through the late 20th century, more than a third of the original bay was filled and often built on. From the untreated sewage contributed to the untreated sewage contributed to the decline of fish and shellfish populations also. Aside from this, the remaining 125 square kilometers of wetlands remain threatened by development, erosion, pollution, and sea level rise. So impacts like this have had very negative effects on the wetlands that have led to its overall degradation. These types of impacts have caused major shifts in habitat abundance over time. These changes have led to changes in plant, aquatic life, and wildlife composition around the bay. Where once the habitat of the bay consisted of primarily tidal marsh, tidal flat, and upland habitats, today there also exist seasonal wetlands, agricultural lands, salt ponds, and storage/treatment ponds. These changes have caused a significant diminishment in physical processes associated with the bay's habitats, as well as a decline in the diversity of plant and animal communities dependent on these upland habitats, tidal marshes, and tidal flats. For example, areas that were once high marsh became low, isolated depressions that are now lower than the relict channels and natural levees. Habitat loss and degradation over the past 2 centuries have played key roles in population declines of many species dependent on the bay. Currently, 51 species of plants and animals of the San Francisco Bay are listed as threatened or endangered under the State and Federal Endangered Species Act. These include 21 plants, 10 invertebrates, 6 fishes, 1 amphibian, and 2 reptiles, 9 birds, and 2 mammals. Urban and suburban development around the bay has had an especially severe impact on many of the ecosystem's plant communities. About 30% of the upland area in the 9 Bay Area counties are now urban and suburban. This has resulted in the loss of most of the historic moist grassland habitats, natural seasonal and perennial wetlands, willow groves, and riparian forests. Historic habitat loss and degradation in the bay have also impacted the well-being of aquatic life and wildlife. For example, the loss of vernal pools, riparian woodlands, and grasslands have led to the depletion of several species of amphibians and reptiles in the San Francisco Bay. Some, such as the California tiger salamander, which is that smiling little guy in the left corner, the red-legged frog, which is just kind of showcases the background of this slide, the giant garter snake, which is the top photo, and then the western pond turtle on the right corner, and those are all facing possible extinction. The table on this next slide outlines the dramatic changes in habitat acreage which have occurred in San Francisco Bay over the past 2 centuries. Because of all these changes, it documents only up until 1988. However, you can still see that the decline in every habitat and that by this time there had been a total of 74% of change and loss of acreage just by 1988. That's only gone up probably significantly since then. Moving forward, wetland restoration projects attempt to restore a portion of historic wetlands already lost to development, yet several factors may impede the long-term success of this approach. Large portions of the land adjacent to the San Francisco Bay have gradually subsided as a result of drainage, agriculture, and urban development. As a result, restoration efforts must account for this loss in elevation with fill of soil and sediment. As sea level rise, existing wetlands and tidal flats may not be able to attract enough sediment at rates approaching those of sea level rise. As a result, large expanses of restored and intact wetlands may become submerged by the end of the 21st century. The image on the left shows predicted images of what will be of the San Francisco Bay in 2045 and 2100. It has predicted that by 2100, Alameda and Oakland will have several areas that may be chronically flooded. In 2011, the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission, otherwise known as the BCDC, revised its Bay Plan to include policies which would require cities and developers to sensibly consider the likely effects of sea level rise for the purpose of public safety and conservation of wetlands and transitional upland habitats. These policies would place limits on the type of development considered and appropriate in areas under BCDC jurisdiction, which are threat of sea level rise, while requiring developers to conduct assessments to determine the flood risk. While the days of the large-scale filling of the bay are largely over, the bay is still at threat from developers that stand to profit from filling the bay or developing its shorelines. Such immediate threats are magnified by factors largely outside of our control, such as decreased sediment loads and potentially rapid sea level rise. So not too many people are aware of what wetlands do for us. So next time someone asks you why it's important that we preserve the wetlands of the San Francisco Bay, you can tell them some of these very important impacts that the wetlands have that affect humans also. So 1, wetlands help purify and counterbalance the human effects on water quality. Wetlands also help curb global warming and protect communities from sea level rise. Number 3, wetlands provide habitat for our endangered species. 4, wetlands provide beautiful areas of open space around the highly urbanized Bay Area that provides even residents with many recreational opportunities. And lastly, number 5, our bay's wetlands support our local economy by providing jobs in shipping, tourism, fishing, recreation, and education. Thank you for listening to my presentation regarding the San Francisco Bay. Yeah, please let me know if you have any questions.